The following program contains dangerous activities that could lead to serious injury. Do not attempt any stunt or activity in this show. These are true stories from real-life recovering addicts. Viewer discretion is advised.
Those didn't work out well because, you know what, I figured out, like, my ankle hurts, take a pain pill for that.
Yeah.
I got a headache, take a pain pill for that. Old lady's bitching at me, fuck it, take a pain pill for that.
Right.
It works for pain,
Yeah.
but for me, that shit works for everything else, too.
Yeah. You're listening to the 90 and 90 podcast, the internet's gateway to sobriety. We ain't stopping until we got Robert Downey Jr. sitting right here in the studio. From San Diego to Washington, D.C., baby. Hey, we've done it. We did it. We're doing it. The 90 and 90 podcast, season 1 is in the books. I'm your local neighborhood hope dealer, Monte Mansfield, and I'm continuing to spread hope, not dope. And we're going to reminisce on clips from the first season, and we're going to bring out amazing moments, and we're going to have a lot of laughter. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we're going to continue to put sobriety first. Like, subscribe, and smash that bell, baby. Episode 10 coming at you like a fastball, straight to the living room. The men had been working on building the studio for months, and it was game time, baby. It was time to come to the studio, and it was time to share the hope. And I was a little nervous, man, but we got together and we said a prayer, and it took the nerves away. The first episode was on gratitude. We had real estate broker Mr. San Diego on the show, Big Mike Bryd. Let's hear what Mike Bryd had to say about sobriety. Share your story a little bit on how you came to be getting sober, you know?
You know, I don't like talking too much about, the past. All I'll just say is my mother, I remember telling me all the time, like, I wish I never had you. I wish you were dead. I wish I had had an abortion. And, she was crazy.
Yeah.
She was crazy.
Yeah.
There was just but I was given drugs and alcohol to kind of make me compliant. Mm-hmm. And then I'd get in trouble for them when I would do them. So I had, there was, so much confusion going on and then so much anger that came up because, I became a very angry kid.
Mm-hmm.
I became a very angry kid. And, without going into details, like all this stuff, let's just say I did everything all the time, all the way, as much as I could, everything. Mm-hmm. And it was a very, dark, drug. It was a very sexual drug for me. Like meth was like the main thing, but I did everything. It didn't matter if it was meth, coke, GHB. I was resuscitated 4 different times off GHB that I died, had out-of-body experiences. And it was never enough to stop me, Mm-hmm. So when I see these kids today on fentanyl going like, why can't you stop? You almost died. I'm like, oh, wait, I did the same thing on GHB.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't enough to stop me. I mean, knowing that I died on the table, mm-hmm. had to be resuscitated back 4 different times, mm-hmm. in my mind, I'm looking at these people on fentanyl going, well, why don't they get it? I'm like, wait, I didn't get it either.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that chase of that high, the chase of the drug, the feeling, and not wanting to be who I was. Yeah. And so, the drug usage was always continuing to ramp up, no matter how bad it got. Mm-hmm. I wasn't practicing the principles of the program. I'd done my steps. I knew how to mouth it, but it wasn't internalized. Mm-hmm. God had to take me out, and I used to be so mad at God, be like, F you, God. You know what? I'm going to do whatever I want to do because you did this to me. Mm-hmm. You did this to me. Let those things happen to me. Mm-hmm. I had ruined childhood, mm-hmm. all this shit happened to me sexually and physically and mentally, and just it was just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're an effed up God if you let that happen to a kid.
Yeah.
God didn't do this to you, man did. But mm-hmm. God made you strong enough to help people who aren't. Mm-hmm. And God had to take you through these things mm-hmm. so that you would be able to battle those things and help people through those things because of your experience. Mm-hmm. And he made you strong enough to take it. Mm-hmm. And then so it started making sense to me. Like, maybe I am big enough to take this. Yeah. Maybe I can take this. And I talk about it in the book, if all my mistakes were made so that I could help another person not make those mistakes, then my life was made, with a purpose, and those mistakes were made in vain.
Unbelievable. After episode 1, the studio started to feel like home, and I was able to come here, and I absolutely fell in love with everything that I was doing. We brought in the thoroughbred, Brian Davidson, and he talks about drinking against his own will. How you'll walk into the store, and you'll look over at the alcohol aisle, and you'll end up buying the drink, and you have no type of restraint to be able to not buy that drink. That's why you have to continue to work the program that will give you the tools that will be able to not walk down that aisle. Hey, let's check it out right here. Here we go, guys.
Alcoholism it's a spiritual malady. It is a spiritual illness. I had a real hard time accepting that. I think what I wanted when I got into recovery was a how-to manual. Something like how you fix a sink or something like that. Mm-hmm. I had a real hard time coming to terms with what you need to do actually to fully recover.
Yeah.
So acceptance came hard for me. I didn't like the terminology. I did not like powerless.
Hey, just like we got to accept these airplanes flying over one after another. Hey, we got to accept it, though. If we accept it, we stay positive and we move and groove, baby. Keep going. Thank you, bro.
Right. You know, when I was young, and you can relate to this, you know, having been a pro athlete, coaches kind of figured into my value systems. I played organized sports when I was a kid as soon as I could start playing. So a lot, and you know how these guys are. I mean, coaches basically all say the same things. You know, that's varying degrees of profanity, but they're all basically talking about the same thing. You know, they talk about, you know, commitment and teamwork and all this, and these are all good things. Yeah. Okay, but you know, but there's a side to it that I kind of latch on to, that's sort of the hyper competitive part. The part that's, you know, a little bit arrogant, you know, and it's surrender, powerless. These were words that I had a real issue with. I thought that, you know, I've never achieved any type of success at all surrendering to anything or admitting powerlessness. So, yeah, for the longest time, and you can't do anything in recovery until you accept it and until you surrender. That's why, for me, it took so long. When I finally came to the point, I would look at the program, and there were certain things about it that I liked. I liked going to meetings, you know, and I liked being around recovery. What I did not ever want to do was the actual work, you know, doing the step work, doing a 4-step, doing a 5th step, making amends, things like this. I was afraid of actually doing that stuff. And probably not for the reasons that a lot of people are afraid of. It's, you know, a lot of people don't want to do a 4-step because, you know, they don't want to drag their baggage out there. Me, I was afraid it wasn't going to work. And if it didn't work, then what was left? So I basically tried to create my own program just through staying involved with recovery, going to meetings. And this would provide, you know, periods of sobriety, but not actual recovery. The obsession itself would never completely go away. Had 100% fully accepted it. Now, it's easy, you know, at a relapse, you know, after you've basically burned the village down and you know, you feel awful and you're just like, you know, I've got to do something about this. Where it gets hard is after you've been clean for 6, 7, 8 months and you start to kind of feel the pain of that relapse and you start to think, well, you know, maybe I'm really not, you know. That's obviously you haven't accepted the fact of what you are. And that was my problem for a very long time. When I finally actually really came to acceptance was just, I can remember it clearly, I was sitting at DFW Airport prior to coming out here. After my last relapse, I'd finally said, look, this isn't working. My way is not working. I've tried every possible way I can think of to do it my way, not the way it's actually designed in the book. I'd made the decision that that's how I was going to do it. I was basically going to come to San Diego and do it that way. That was my acceptance. And I can clearly remember sitting there at the airport thinking, don't even bother getting on this plane, man, if you're not going to do it the right way this time. It was a watershed moment for me. I feel like that's when I finally truly accepted the fact that, look, you're an alcoholic and this is not going to fix itself. You're going to have to do this the right way.
Thank you, Brian, for that amazing knowledge of recovery. And after episode 2, we got some massive momentum and we wanted to get right back in the studio for episode 3. And on episode 3, we had a special guest, Fear, false evidence appearing real. And we had the big, awesome Ray Walker on the episode, who was an ex-athlete. So I was super excited to get in the studio and hear his experience and his strength and his hope. During his addiction, he suffered from a horrible arm injury. And let's hear him share it. Let's go, Ray.
This is definitely a reminder every time I look down at my arm. You know, I have a gash right here. There's another one right here, and then there's another one on the inside.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
And, you know, in my addiction, I was an IV user. You know, I was an IV user. I was shooting heroin and crystal meth. And, you know, one day, I did a shot, and my arm just swelled up, you know, really big. You know, my fingers were about the size of sausages, polo sausages, polo sausages. And I ended up having cellulitis in my arm. And it took me straight back.
So you knew it was something wrong.
Yeah, there was something serious. And the nurse asked me, you know, what happened, and I was honest with her. You know, I was like, you know, I used drugs, and you know, I stuck a needle in my arm, and next thing you know, they had me on an operation table. They had me on an operation table within probably like 20 minutes of being there. And they told me they were just going to do a quick procedure. You know, next thing you know, they put a mask on me, and I'm out. And I wake up. And I wake up probably like 2 or 3 hours later, and my arm is just like burning, you know, burning. And it's all wrapped up, and later on they take me to the room where I'm going to be staying at for the next 6 weeks, and they take the bandages off, and my arm was fat, you know, and I'm looking and I could see everything in the inside of my arm, you know, bones, tendons, ligaments in every single one of these gashes.
Yeah.
You know, so they packed it with gauze. So I was in the hospital for about 6 weeks. Jeez. And you want to know what? Having an experience like that, most people would be like, you know, I'm good on drugs. You know, I don't want to use anymore. Yeah. But you want to know, I'm powerless over my addiction. And, you know, when I was in there, I was still using while I was in the hospital. Yeah. You know, I was still using. Yeah. And that's how I knew, like, I had a problem. Yeah. Even the nurse even came to me and because they would come in, you know, the nurse would come in and check your vitals, you know. I was completely out, you know, drooling on myself, and she was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm just tired," you know.
Making up every excuse, bro.
So she was like, "You know, I'm gonna need you to pee in this cup." You know, she wanted to UA me, and I of course I was defiant. You know, I told her no, I'm not gonna pee in the cup. Yeah. You know, and then eventually, you know, I ended up giving her a sample, you know, and I was testing positive for heroin and meth, you know. Yeah. And then they had the director from Sharp Mesa Vista, the rehab. He came over and talked to me, and he was like, you know, after you're done here healing from your injuries, I think it would be a good idea for you to walk over to the street, walk next door, and go check yourself in, you know. Yeah. And man, God was always trying to reach out to me, you know.
That's like a near death experience, you know, and that was a moment where God was like saying, hey, you need to get out of this lifestyle or you will die. Because in the beginning it was fun. It was like partying, getting girls.
It all starts as fun.
Exactly. Now I'm around guys that come in with tasers and guns and kidnapping. I mean, bro, it's like the fun is over, my boy. The party's over, bro. I need to find a whole new way of life now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Oof. Man, you're a lucky man, man. The Lord has definitely turned your mess into a message. After episode 3, the podcast started growing legs, baby. It started spreading out there, and we started sharing the good news more and more, getting excited every day to come to the studio. Episode 4 was living in the moment. We have to be able to seize the moment with good intent. We had an amazing veteran, 6-year sobriety, Hector Rodriquez, come on the show, and he talked about how the crazy places that our addiction ends up taking us to, places that we never thought we would be. Hey, Hector, let's roll that tape, baby.
I had these grandiose ideas that I was living my best life out there on the street, but I wasn't. I was a homeless junkie, a veteran. You know what I mean? And I used all of these excuses to justify my pain. You know, and by the end, I didn't even really know why I was using anymore. Yeah, you know, I want to say this is my first time in recovery, and I'm still clean.
Yeah, amen.
You know,
I love that
because I've been able to draw from my past, you know, from my using days. So the moment of clarity that I had was on August 26th of 2016, and it was some random day that I just checked my email, and my mother had sent me an email. I hadn't seen her in a couple, 3-4 years. You know, I was super shut out, and I read in there that I had warrants for my arrest, and you know, I'm living in Balboa Park. Closer to Morley Field, you know, and I meet this kid, and he's like, I've got keys to this church, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to get high in a closed environment, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so we get in there, and you know, we're getting high, and the cops show up, and they break in, and this little kid is able to get out of this small little window, and I'm stuck in there, you know. And I don't know about you guys, but when I got high, things got weird.
Shoot,
okay,
I hear you, bro.
So I'm like sitting in there, basically naked.
Hey,
and the cops,
there we go.
The cops are like, what the hell? And then they're like, dude, you need to stop smoking meth. Why don't you smoke marijuana? My problem with marijuana is that I smoke it like it's crack.
No, 100%.
I smoke meth like it's crack. So I smoke marijuana like until I'm shitting and throwing up on myself, you know, and that's not fun. You know, I never felt like I wanted to die on meth, but I did feel like I wanted to die on marijuana.
This episode today is brought to you by Clean Cause. It's an amazing yerba mate energy drink, and 50% of profits support addiction and recovery. So not only are we saving lives, they're saving lives, and now you're saving lives, guys. Hey, let's get back to sobriety. Let's go, baby! So I'd like to ask you, someone that's in early recovery, that's at the meetings, how do they go about getting a sponsor?
Yeah, so as somebody that's been around a while, I believe, and actively doing 12 steps. Like, I go and introduce myself to the newcomers, you know, and I let them know who I am. I do my best to give a clear, concise message, you know what I mean? And so to the newcomer, like those people that are coming up to you and enthusiastically introducing themselves to you, they're letting you know, that they're available and that they're willing to help. Another thing is, like, you know, for me, what's really been helpful is, you know, to check when I was new, like to check my reasoning to wanting that sponsor, right? I wanted to love myself, be a productive member of society. I wanted to just live a life with dignity, and I saw that in my sponsor, and I heard him share at an H&I, not at a meeting, you know what I mean, at an H&I, and I worked up the courage to ask him. Now this podcast is called 90 and 90, right? Yeah. And so I didn't get my sponsor until about 90 days in. Okay. Because at that point I had been abstaining from using long enough where that pink cloud had started to go down, and I needed to get into the work. You know what I mean? I needed to get into that work. And so if you're new, you know, I don't think that it's ever early enough to get a sponsor. You know, I've grown so much from my relationship with my sponsor. I've never been to his house, you know. We have a we have a great relationship, you know. I love him, he loves me, but strictly work steps, you know. It's not like that with all of his sponsees, but it's like that with me, and it's worked out. Like I said, see if the person, if it, I wouldn't, other than that, I didn't have anything in common with my sponsor, but through that relationship, I learned how to interact with other human beings, how to work through problems and uncomfortableness, because I shared a lot of things with my sponsor where he was giving me these looks, you know, and I was reading into them, you know what I mean? And I, you know, so I through my experience have believed and wholeheartedly and to work through any problems with the sponsor, you know, because it's for me, it's been a huge, I've learned to interact with other human beings that care about me, you know, instead of just running like I usually do, you know,
facing your fears, you know, facing life head on.
Facing fear. What is it? Fear is facing everything and recovering, or facing everything and running.
I love that. I've never heard that, man. I look at it as false evidence appearing real, the acronym. But yeah, man, super thankful. You know, I know that at meetings they ask people that are willing to sponsor.
Yeah, they do
They ask them to raise their hands, so you can find a sponsor that way too. And I wanted to ask you also, you know, somebody that's out there on the streets, right, still using, they're feeling that shame, that guilt, you know, that lie that's telling them not to go back to treatment or not to get help. What's some advice you got for them?
Some advice that I've got for them is, you know, just keep yourself open. You know, I heard when I was on the street about Veterans Village of San Diego, you know what I mean? And somebody planted that seed in my head. So when I was ready, I knew exactly where to go. And right now it's just such a great time to get clean, you know. It's such a horrible time to be using.
Amen.
You know,
the worst time ever right now.
The worst time ever right now. There's hope out there. There's a place for you. And if you're homeless and you think that your situation can never change, it's a lie, man. Or girls, you know, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is called recovery, and it's available and free to us all.
Amen.
You know, where there's a will, there's a way. You can. I've been able to change my life because of everything that was available to me at rehab. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But the most important part of rehab for me was just getting 12-stepped and pointed in the right direction, which for me, because I like the literature says, I don't believe that there is such thing as a functioning addict. Yeah. I'm not special. My sponsor told me, you are not special. You are the run-of-the-mill addict. If you want to go and take and see if you can drink like a gentleman, it's there for you, but you don't have to. Yeah. And so if, you know, I'm going to share this, not to shame anybody who's been in and out of the rooms, okay? But to tell somebody out there who's probably doing this for the first time, who's probably hasn't even gotten an opportunity to ask somebody to sponsor them, you know, that it is possible that that you can come in here. You can come to recovery and stay clean. And you don't have to be 37 years old. You know, that it's available to us whenever we're ready. You know, and God deemed that it was my time. And I've got free will, like you said, and it's up to me to maintain it, and it's doable.
Thank you, Hector, for that insight on sobriety. Now, episode 5, I was a little nervous. We had a comedic legend coming to the studio. I was driving in my car, and I looked up, and I seen him on a billboard for Saquon Casino, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be right here in the studio next to this comedic legend, 2-time Emmy Award winner. He performed for the president, and I show up to the studio, and guess who walks in? Craig Shoemaker. Just an absolute legend. 34 years of sobriety. He's like the Yoda of sobriety. So let's just get right to it. Let's hear his story and let's reel the tape.
Maybe I did too many drugs 34 years ago. Bats and sharks. I can't tell the difference.
Amen, right? How did you decide to want to get into comedy?
I think it decided for me. My life kind of took that turn. My dad left when I was born. Started with that. I'm like something I said, wah, he's gone. Yeah. So, I mean, my mom raised us, and we were very poor. And how you deal with poverty and circumstances. A lot of bad things happened to me and stuff. I was kidnapped, and it's just. I think that led to both comedy and drinking. Yes, hand in hand. But
I had got hooked on Adderall at the end of my baseball career, and it kind of led me down the wrong path. Yes, but speaking
of
not
a lot of right paths at the end of Adderall.
Oh my gosh, it's nothing but the wrong path.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing to me what the prescription drugs.
Yeah.
And the impact they have in the world and how they just get away with it. Yeah. It's amazing. It truly is. If I was in politics, that's the first thing I would go for is no, you guys got to button this up here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're prescribing it to young kids, young children.
Yeah, well, that's not the only one, too. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible when you see the results. Here's how you can know who's in charge. Watch a commercial. Most commercials are for drug companies.
Yeah.
First, the news gets you in fear about everything, right? They get you upset. Then the drug company sponsors the news that handles the anxiety they just gave you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm depressed, I'm stressed. Oh, there's my answer right there. And it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's a scam.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
I'm not saying all of it is. I'm not saying to people, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you. But my experience, strength, and hope is I got addicted to a lot of this stuff. And alcohol is another one. Bombard you with the commercials. Look, you're going to get a hot chick if you drink this beer.
Yeah, amen.
I believed it.
It's a business, right? They're all in business at the end of the day.
They're in business, but the problem is they run the country. I was having a bonding moment with my kids. I told you, I never dad, So father and son watching sports. That's a dream I had my whole life. And a commercial comes on. Do you have erectile dysfunction? I go, oh, thanks for the Hallmark moment. My son goes, do you, Dad? Oh, this is a way I pictured bonding with my kids.
Yeah.
And then the side effects, there's 19,000 side effects. You know what? Laughter only has great side effects.
Yeah, yeah.
So why are we taking away your greatest medicine is right there for you. Yeah. Just laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
And forget all the standards that they program you. You can't say this word, that word. They're just words, and they mean nothing in any other language.
Yeah. I actually, I love that movement that you're doing, the laughter movement. I actually was sitting there and I watched one of your TED Talks, and I said, so I didn't make it to the big leagues. So I became a junkie after baseball. Now I have a testimony to save lives. You know what I'm saying? And it works. It really lightens up the mood, and it really changes things and can change your course of life is to be able to laugh things off. How did you get over the whole fact of not using drugs and being able to go out there and perform still?
It was scary. Having that crutch it was like a crutch. Have that. You're numbing out your fears, and you think that it goes away. What I found though is through working this, it's more freeing than the other stuff was. So it actually becomes a superpower. Sobriety is now a superpower for me. I feel stronger than ever, and I'm a lot older now than when I got sober in young 20s. And I'm much more powerful now because my mind is clear, my creativity, I'm tapped in with the creator, which is what creativity is. I'm present, aware, conscious. I mean, how cool is that to live like that? And that's what this led to. Now, I didn't stop
How was that first time?
I didn't stop drinking for that reason, for these promises coming true. I didn't stop for that reason, but that's what's happening. And there are new promises that come true for me. Yeah. The first time on stage, I do remember it clearly. Now, I'm going to be honest again, and it's irreverent, and you're going to have to keep this in.
Let's go.
Okay?
Let's go.
I also thought I'll never get laid again.
Yeah, that's a big fear.
That was a fear.
Yeah.
I'm never going to meet anybody.
Yep.
And this is crude, but this is what happened.
Yep.
I go to Indianapolis, and I'm going, oh my, I can't do this. And I was booked in Indianapolis at a comedy club. And so I thought, and I killed on stage. I couldn't believe it. I killed. I said, oh, that went well. To top it all off, also got laid. Not only did I get laid by the manager of the club, she drops me off. We have sex together at the condo. 2 more waitresses showed up later.
Wow.
So they were both with me. So basically, I'm going, whoa, sobriety's awesome.
Yeah, you're
I had
hooked.
days sober. Now, listen, I'm not out there advocating for you to have threesomes and stuff like that. But I will tell you that I was saying to myself, okay,
I can do this.
I can do anything,
Yeah.
you know. And listen, we all do have a mind that wants to have sex, right? People want to have sex.
Yeah.
So, and that was programmed in me too. It's like someday I'll, be with multiple, and it happened that night.
Wow.
And I'm not advocating for it. I'm not condoning my behavior, but I will tell you, we have this behavior. It exists. It exists even more if you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because our thinking is, our stinking thinking is not so great. So just admit it and have fun with it. Now, I'm not going to do that again,
Yeah.
but I want to do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just say it. Say it out loud. Say it, spray it, and be okay with it. And get out of the judgment. It's this image conscious crap that really keeps us drinking.
Yep.
It's like making sure that you're bonding with everyone through drinking and alcohol. And that's the other thing, is I never thought I could go back home to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because when I did go out my first year, I went out.
Yeah.
And I went out in Philadelphia because they call me Shoe. Come on, Shoe, where's the old Shoe? Because they're used to, I'm the lampshade on the head drunk.
Right.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I got drunk. And I looked in the audience. There was my sister, proud of me that I'm back, because she's a big drinker.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
sober now, about 25 years.
Awesome.
But at the time, she was, I'm back. Then we end up at the after hours bar, because I always know how to get in. I know the guy with the velvet rope.
Right.
Even though I live in LA, I still know these people. I end up finding the Coke dealer. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Wake up naked the next day.
Yeah.
Hopefully human is next to me, and it was. Hopefully female. And I had a spring. I'll never forget. I was naked. I had a spring. There was poking me in the ass. And it was like I think
Literally.
that was
Wow.
literally poking me in the ass, saying it's time to get sober, and that was my last drink.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it. And the woman next to me, her name was, listen to this last name, Rectum Wall.
Whoa.
Honest to God, that's the name. I
Oh, my
haven't seen
gosh.
her since, but that's who was next to me in my sister's futon
Man.
in Philadelphia, in downtown Philadelphia, and that was my last time ever having anything from the neck up, and it's crazy. It's just and it's been wonderful. And I'm not saying life is perfect and easy. All the same stuff happens. It's just now I have tools to manage.
There you go.
Who had tools before?
Yeah.
Yep.
All I knew is lie, cheat, steal, get over, get by, bully. Those are the tools that I had.
Yeah.
That's all I had
Yeah.
in my arsenal.
Yeah.
I didn't have take a pause. I didn't have be of service.
Yeah.
I didn't have be loving, go to God. I didn't have meditation. I didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah. Now you're like Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Exactly. Meditate.
I love it.
Be of service. That's what we got now.
Well, Craig, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing your experience, your strength, and your hope, man. Absolutely, just an absolute amazing podcast, and we thank you so much. We got a gift for you.
Oh, really?
For coming on the show, Go
Yeah,
take it
man.
away, Vinny.
Speaking of truth, we had we had some scheduling challenges, and we understand you have some golf to play later, so we got you this signed Tiger Woods.
Oh, thank you.
But if you look,
He didn't sign
if
that.
you look, you got it.
He
You got it.
Come on. Tiger Woods signed up for it. And you know what's funny is he's in rage in this show.
Yes,
Which I
he
think
is.
you were trying to tell me that was me when I was drunk.
I love it.
We've all been in that drunken rage. Or is he celebrating? One of the two.
Yeah, that's definitely Monty's signature on there
you,
for
Monty.
sure.
It's Tiger Woods with my Hancock.
Oh, believe me, I'll be telling people that it's Tiger Woods' signature, and then I'll make amends later for lying.
Yeah, thanks again, Craig.
It's a real pleasure. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
This is being of service to others, and hopefully everyone had some laughs today as well, because we're not a glum lot. We need to have fun with our lives. All right.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's go, baby. Woo! Let's go, baby.
I got the golden buzzer. America's Got Talent. This is great.
I can't believe he fell for the Tiger Woods gift. But thank you so much, Craig, for being on the show. Episode 5 was Laughter Heals, and you have definitely saved so many lives because laughter does heal. Episode 6, now we got the amazing Vanessa coming to the studio, and she's our first female guest, baby.
Well, Monty, did you say female?
Yes, female guest. We hit her with the breathalyzer right off the bat. Let's see how that worked out for her. So let's just get right to it. I'm going to ask her, hey, Vanessa, are you sober right now?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're going to find out how sober you really are. Wait for it. Wait for it. Zero!
Thank God.
She's
Oh
clean
my
and
God.
sober, baby. Hey, super thankful to have you on the show. You're our first female guest, so
Thanks,
we'd like
it's
to
an
thank
honor.
you and buckle in because
Buckle
you're going to blow us away with your testimony. You're listening to the 90 and 90 podcast, the internet's gateway to sobriety. We ain't stopping until we got Robert Downey Jr. sitting right here in the studio. Hey, we got to continue to grow the channel, man. We got legs, baby. We got to like, subscribe, and we got to ring that bell, baby. In my experience, I believe the ones that the world crushes the most, they end up soaring the highest. And you have an absolute amazing story. I've listened to The Holy Ride. I've listened to some of your videos, and I'm just super thankful to get to know you a little bit before I actually got to meet you. And I'm super thankful. But let's just start from the beginning. How was your life before using, before drinking, and all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up really on, I was a 4.0 GPA honor roll type of kid. I was super overachiever, always teacher's pets. I was really just used to that type of, external validation that I was getting from authority figures, and just really, that was kind of what I was like, okay, this feels good. I'm going to keep doing that. So that was just type of my personality. And because of that, I was also a very anxious child and teenager. And I think it all just kind of, in high school, we do the high school teenager stuff. And I was like, this is too much. And you find alcohol or something. And I was like, this took it away a little bit. Makes me feel a little bit better.
Early on for me, I was using marijuana and drinking early on in my baseball career because I had a normal type childhood, and it didn't seem like things were so crazy. Like, I actually loved my life. Everything was going great. And then, life on life terms hit me, and I wasn't able to handle the foundation of being a professional athlete. And I wasn't able to live with integrity and things like that. So when did you start drinking, and how did that begin? Did you start hanging around with a bad crowd, and things like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I had a pretty good childhood, by the way. I did have, I think every family kind of has their own little things. And I think that's kind of where I started to split into having this double life type of a thing, because I wanted to always appear as though everything was under control and everything was good. But my parents kind of went through a phase in their marriage that was really volatile. And so I had a lot of anxiety around that. And I started kind of masking a lot of that type of the imperfection that I thought I had to hide. And so I think that I naturally did get drawn to kind of the bad kids in high school. Yeah. And I kind of in a way still am. There was a certain point where my parents were like, look at who you're hanging out with. My dad would always say tell me who your friends are and I tell you who you are.
Yeah.
And I kind of found at a certain point that I was more like, I think I'm the bad kid. I think I'm the one that's influencing everybody. Yeah. So I don't know.
I know you took the DUI courses. You got the DUI and everything like that. For me, I had to do felony probation, and now we're at the other side of all that, But I wanted to ask, for me, when I look back, walking with God, and I look back, I feel like jail and the police, they saved my life, So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your jail experience as we ring you up again.
Yeah. So I did go to jail. I ended up going to Las Colinas. For 3.5 months for my DUI. And then I had another charge. The day that I got rearrested was for domestic violence. So I was inflicting corporal injury or something on my...
I've been to jail for that too.
Yeah, and it got knocked down to battery, and then they ended up sending me to rehab for that 3.5 months. But, you know, I was so afraid of going to jail. Like that to me, I literally had the thought that like, if I have to go to jail, I'll just kill myself. Like, and that was just it's such an irrational thing, you know, like I would rather die than get my punishment. Like, what an alcoholic move. And so I ended up going to jail, and I was just so steeped in judgment of other people. The other women that I was there with, I thought, you know, these people are trash. They're the scum of society. Obviously, that's why they're in jail. So what do you say when you're the person who's in jail? Yeah. So I was like, I cannot be any better than these women. And then the women in jail, I know that's a very different experience for men, but for women in county jail, there was just so much camaraderie and so much helpfulness and so much community.
That's awesome.
And they really went above and beyond to help me. Like they could tell I'd have never been to jail before. And they were like, let me show you the ropes. And a lot of women there had been in there for drugs and alcohol. And I got to see what their lives were like when they did not get sober. Some of them are still getting loaded in jail. And then I, you know, ended up working in the kitchen there, and I took a lot of pride in that because I'll take my pride anywhere I can get it. And I was just like, so I got to see God in these women and feel the love and support from them. And the same thing when I went to rehab, you know, and I just got to see people from a different perspective.
Yeah, I love that. You know, Joyce Meyer, she says that we live life forward, but we understand life backwards. Now, you said you're 4.5 years sober. So when you look back in your sobriety and everything, can you see how God had his hand on it the whole time? Oh yeah. Totally 110%. Like everything, including those things that I really thought that I wanted in early recovery that didn't work out. You know, there were a lot of like the job that I thought I had to have. And then I'm like, oh, actually I have like the best job now. Like I love what I do. And it's just like, how did all this work out? The place that I thought I had to live. And it's like, oh, that place was so not for me. Like so glad that I'm living where I'm living now. Vanessa, thank you for being such a good sport with the breathalyzer. It's something you never know in the recovery world. And let us know, fans, if you want us to bring that back into another episode. We love it. And now we got episode 7 coming right at you. And we got a roaring lion coming to the studio, the crippler, Chris Leben. And I have to admit, before this episode, I did not know what I was getting to. And I was a little nervous, baby. But when Chris came in, he's an absolute upright, unbelievable, awesome mentor. He's an absolute survivor. And he is definitely living his best life. And during this episode, he talks about survival through the UFC, survival in addiction, and survival from COVID. Take it away, Big Chris. Boom, baby.
Matt Lindland and Randy Couture are kicking the shit out of each other in the garage. You know, and Randy Couture was a world champion at that time. Matt Lindland's an Olympic silver medalist wrestler. Obviously, I'm a fan, but at this time, all I'm doing is selling cars, taking Vicodin, drinking, doing just party. You know, I'm 20. I'm now 20 years old. You know, and I was like, fuck, I'm on my way. You know, I had no one was guiding me. Nobody was helping me out. Nobody was pointing me in the right direction. But I showed up, and you know, my heroes were in that room. You know, and I remember I met my coach Robert Follis, and I signed up immediately. You know, I was like, sign me up. You know, I'm in. And from that day on, those men, as fucked up as I was, put up with me and took me under their wing. And now, like the drop in a bucket, you know, being around these motivated, confident, you know, men, I think that changed me, you know, because I didn't have a father figure, you know, and I never had men in my life. And, you know, it really started to form me into who I am today. Yeah. I remember, you know, when you talk about confident men, being around confident men, I remember going to the stadium and like having like 32 just absolutely talented, confident individuals, you know, and talking about how the disease gets progressively worse. You know, for me, Adderall, it disguised itself as heaven, and it took me straight to hell because of the dopamine process. The first time I put it in my body, it felt so good. It was like absolutely amazing. And the first couple of years
were amazing, but then it gets progressively worse till the end of my addiction. I ended up being like in from garage to garage with people looking at surveillance, afraid to go outside of the garage because they thought the cops were outside. Like that's how my addiction progressively got worse. Do you agree that addiction, it gets progressively worse in time? And also, do you believe I know that I think you were addicted to Oxycontin, and you were probably taking it before the pain, and you were probably justifying it in your mind because you had pain and things like that. How are prescription drugs, how do you think they affect, people in society?
Well, I had an Adderall prescription for a while. Mm-hmm. That didn't work out too good for me.
There's no good ending to Adderall, I'll tell you that.
I had a lot of pain pill subscriptions. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Those didn't work out well because you know what? I figured out like my ankle hurts. Mm-hmm. Take a pain pill for that. Yeah. I got a headache. Yeah. Take a pain pill for that. Old lady's bitching at me. Fuck it. Take a pain pill for that. Right. You're getting ready to go out on Friday night. Yeah. Take a pain pill for that. Yeah. You're hungover on Saturday from Friday night. Take a pain pill for that. You know, it works for pain. Yeah. But for me, that shit works for everything else too. Yeah. Yeah. At least in the short term. Mm-hmm. At least in the short term. So. Yeah, and it's definitely when you get it from a doctor, it makes you feel like okay. I'm not doing drugs. I'm just taking my prescription. But it's was never both Adderall and other meds were not hard for me to get, whether I got them from a doctor or from a guy behind the gym. You know what I mean? Like bottom line is I was getting them one way or another.
These prescriptions, they end up hooking people like Suboxone, right? Like so you get off of heroin to come to treatment to get on Suboxone. And people consider themselves sober. Can you shed any light on this? Because I've talked to people
Suboxone's a fucking nightmare, dude.
Yeah.
It really is a double-edged sword because I do believe it probably saved my life.
Yeah. Okay.
It probably kept me from ODing and dying, but I was on the the maximum dose, 32 milligrams or whatever it is, of Suboxone for like 4 years straight. Mm-hmm. I tried to quit twice on my own. Both times I ended up in the psych ward. Mm-hmm. One time I was naked. Wow. I fought like 12 cops.
Wow.
The way I finally got off Suboxone, and I do not recommend this for anybody. What I did is I got it down to 1 milligram. I knew I had to go to jail. I knew I had to do 6 months in jail. So I and my old lady helped me. I would take enough to get through work, and then I would go home and just fucking sweat and shiver and play sheet karate all night long.
Those restless feet.
Just kicking, and then about a week or 10 days before I had to go in, I switched to morphine. Mm-hmm. And I took a large dose of morphine all the way until I got into till I went into jail, because at that time, I think now they might. But then, even if I was prescribed it from a doctor, they didn't give it to you in San Diego.
Yeah, they give Suboxone now in jail.
They do, yeah. So I didn't have that luxury. I've gone through withdrawals plenty of times. Every fight. Yeah. Every fight I used to get a big calendar, and I'd put it up on the wall, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to take this many of these, taper down to 1, and then I'm going to switch to these, and then I'm going to cut to that, until by the time I got up to the fight, I was waking up in the morning, taking some Flexerol and drinking a bottle of NyQuil.
Yeah.
And that's how I would detox myself, because obviously I had to be drug tested before my fight. And that worked until it didn't.
It's time to get clean out there, and we can start doing the Roger Rabbit, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, what? Yeah, we go. There we go. Time to get clean, baby, and you can dance like me. Let's go, baby. In our addiction, we put value in the things that don't matter, like in our connect and where we get the drugs and all the people that fuel our drug addiction. But now in recovery, I feel like God has switched the price tags back around, and now I have these amazing relationships with like my mom, my wife. I'm married. I have a non-toxic relationship. How has sobriety changed your life and being able to keep those amazing relationships going and stuff?
Well, I didn't have any amazing relationships before sobriety, I'll tell you that. So it didn't just keep them going, it got them going. Okay. It got, and I'm sure you can relate to this. In sobriety, one thing I've had to learn is how to trust people again. How to let other men into my life. You know, I don't fucking trust. I have a hard time trusting anybody. All the way back to my childhood, I haven't had the luxury of being able to depend on anybody. You know, and you know, back in February, I got real sick. You know, I got COVID, and it turned into ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. So ultimately, my heart went into AFib. I got into the hospital. I had an infection in my lungs. They had to give me these antibiotics because my liver and kidneys shut down. So my lungs, my heart, my liver, my kidneys all shut down, and I ended up on a respirator.
Yeah.
I think the odds of me surviving were like 1 in 250.
Yeah, it's not good when you get to that point.
4 organ failure, you know, and they don't put you on the respirator because you're doing okay.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't induce you into a coma. I learned. I learned a couple things because of that time I spent in the hospital, that time I spent really expecting to die. You know, and my friends would come in and visit me and say, "You're not going to die. You're going to make it through this." And I would tell them, "Fuck you. Listen, you're not in my body."
Yeah.
Like,
oh, man. Yeah.
I did not think in any aspect of my mind that I was going to make it.
Yeah.
I was like floating in this darkness, and they figured out they could put paper under my hand, and I was writing letters from like the spirit world to the other side. You know, to my friends, you know, about what needed to happen with my money and my child. And, you know, ultimately, you know, there was I came away with, the power of prayer is very real.
Yeah, amen.
You know, the last thing, I'm gonna try to do this without crying. It's a little powerful for me. The last thing I wrote was, you know, call Tommy, my sponsor, tell him to say a prayer. So my buddy Jake and my old lady were there. They put him on speakerphone. And at that time, I had said everything I needed to say about my child. I kept like bubbling, fighting my way up to being able to hear the room to try to get this information out about what had to happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was coming out of this coma. I remember listening to him on the phone say that prayer. And then I kind of did a 1, 2, and a 3 right there, you know. I said, God, I'm giving it up to you. And I quit fighting. And I fell back kind of into the darkness. And 15 minutes later, they were pulling those tubes out of me and they were waking me back up.
Wow. Thank you for that amazing insight on recovery and survival, and thank you so much for not choking out our producer. Episode number 8, we got the amazing Megan Schneid, 7 years sobriety. She has an amazing testimony. I can't wait to hear her experience, her strength, and her hope, and she is definitely the woman that you admire. How's it going, Megan?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. We're the internet's gateway to sobriety, and we're super thankful to have you come on today. Let's get started from the beginning. You know, how was your childhood?
Oh my goodness. My childhood was actually amazing. So there's nothing outside, you know, on that picture perfect outside childhood that would say, oh, I understand why she went that way and did drugs and alcohol. White picket fence, you know, I had a very supportive family. My birth mother passed away from cancer when I was 7, but my father remarried when I was 10, and my stepmom is my very best friend today and couldn't love me more than if I was her own daughter. So I had everything I wanted and needed and supported. My dad would go over and above to just give me all of the opportunities and things that any child would like.
You know, the moral of the story is that addiction doesn't discriminate. You know, you can come from a bad childhood. You can come from a good childhood. I know that the minute I put Adderall in my body, I was 28 years old playing professional baseball, and I put Adderall in my body. And from that moment on, you know, it disguised itself as heaven, and it took me straight to hell, you know, and it ended up taking me, you know, down the wrong path. And it does not discriminate from whatever background, whatever color you are. The minute that you put the drug in your body, it will take you to institution jails or death. Thank goodness we're alive right here. We're able able to share our story. What was your drug of choice, and when did you start using?
Ooh, I'd say, well, I started off like, most kids, stealing alcohol and smoking weed. But like you just said, with Adderall, my true thing that like just took me straight to hell down that path was meth. First time I did meth, it was great. Like you said, I thought it was, this is life-changing. This is the answer to everything. And I don't think I didn't use meth for a single day for at least 3 years after that first use. I was so hooked and so just like sold on this. I could study, I could party, I could drink, all the stuff it does in the beginning. So meth is the one that just took me.
Took you? Yeah. It's like when I did Adderall, I felt like I did the limitless pill. It was like, it was amazing, but it all goes downhill super fast. A cop asked me one time, he said, what is this big thing about meth? I said, sir, you can ruin your whole life and you feel okay doing it. I said, it's like this crazy phenomenon. And if you're a normie out there, you're not going to understand it, but like you can just ruin your life and you feel okay doing it because you're messing with the dopamine system in your brain, and things like that. There's a saying, you're always trying to chase that first high. And I remember that when like I put the Adderall in my body and it was so good for those first 2 years that like my addiction wants to go play back. I mean, I feel like the obsession's kind of been lifted now 3 years and 4 months, but I continue to work. I continue to do the work and I continue to stay on that pink cloud. Somebody out there right now watching our show, okay? They're watching our show and they're doing bad, they're strung out, but they're right on the edge of wanting to go get help, What's some advice you would give them to just push them over that edge to want to come into treatment or recovery or just go to a meeting and get some help?
I'd say what helped me the most was hearing a message of depth and weight, being able to go to a meeting and just pick one person that you think you can relate to, that you hear what they have to say and you believe that they have an answer, that they are working and living this program, that has not just what you think you want, but they have what they want, and being honest, being gut level honest. The book talks about, and I see it in treatment too, the biggest block is people inconstitutionally being honest with themselves. And that's not a permanent state. That was me for a long time. But once I got ready was able to be completely honest with at least one other person, that's where I could begin. So I'd say just find somebody somewhere in recovery, then be honest with.
Such great advice. Episode 8 was just absolutely amazing, and it was about become the person that you admire. And we also had a special guest, Johnny in the Sky.
Bonnie, good to hear from you, Johnny in the Sky. Yes, tonight's meetings are looking pretty good, action-packed, a lot of good things to be said. That's me right over the top of you. That's a little tailwind heaven. Oh, I'm going to arrive a little bit early to that. Looking like 6 o'clock arrival for me. Going to put this bad boy down. See you at Alano.
We're super thankful for Johnny in the Sky. He's the highest guy in recovery because he's in a helicopter. But we also brought Mr. Rogers. We brought Mr. Rogers to the studio and we did the theme song with me as the hope dealer, and it's a good day to get sober. All your drugs, you better move over because the hope dealer's clean and sober. Now, episode 9, we had the amazing Bryce Pattee, which we wanted to go, your ego is not your friend. We have to stay humble, and the leaders among us must be servants. He shared an amazing story about when he got arrested. So here, just take it away, Bryce.
Oh, yeah, man. Dude, lots of experiences with the law. First time I actually got arrested, they raided my spot. So I was renting a room from this nice family, and they were kind enough to rent me a master bedroom in their house, and me and my buddy were living there, and we were doing our thing, and there was heroin dealing going on, and we were doing it for a while, and we weren't really being cautious in any way, shape, or form. And we knew the law was coming, man. Somebody came over, somebody I used to buy drugs off of, and they were, and I hadn't heard from them for a few months, and they used to have the best price, so I was really interested to hear from them again. And I used to drive a nice Audi, used to always go down to Mexico, come back with lots of good stuff, and like have good prices. And he was like connected down in Chula Vista. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's cool. I'm glad he's hitting me up again because I really need to be in touch with this guy because he can help me make some money. So, but he had known for a while that we had like a lot of money sitting there locked up in this cabinet. And we had firearms, but we had no ammo for those firearms because none of us could legally buy ammo. And so we were sitting there, and he came over, right, and he thought we still didn't have ammunition, like we hadn't from 3 months prior, but we had since obtained ammunition, you know?
Yeah.
So my buddy's sitting there with the shotgun under his feet and like a bunch of shells right there.
Yeah.
And while this guy's coming in, and he's all trying to act cool, talk to us, and he's pulling his dope out of a cigarette pack.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but it was like little dope, not big dope. I wanted the big dope, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm watching him, you know, I'm like, all right, so what's going on, man? He's like, oh, man, you guys still got that shotgun with no rounds? I'm like, no, it's fully loaded at my buddy's feet. Yeah. And, you know, and he's like, oh, man. And then all of a sudden the tone totally changes and he forgot something. He forgot his cigarettes in the car. Yeah. But I just watched him pull his dope out of the cigarette pack, right?
Yeah.
So he leaves and he goes down and I'm standing by the window. I have this window that's overlooking the street. And I'm trying to find a vein at the same time. And I'm looking out in the street and I'm looking to see when his Audi's going to drive by. To see, like, where the fuck is this guy? It's been like 20 minutes since he walked out.
Yeah.
And then the cops drive by and they flash a spotlight into my window where I'm sitting in the windowsill with a needle hanging out of my arm.
Yeah.
And they get on the radio and say, put the needle down. And then I go, I'm diabetic. They kept driving by, flashing the light on the house until they finally raided us. And yeah, it was fun stuff, man.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. I know that.
That was my first time right after that getting into recovery too. Or first attempt at it.
First attempt at recovery.
Yeah.
I know I got sober right before fentanyl. We all know fentanyl's a killer. You know what I'm saying? It's killing people. It's like the obsession now, right? The obsession, it like used to be like manslaughter, like it tried to kill you, but now we're dealing with an obsession that's a straight murderer. So the obsession that is like trying to take you out to use just one more is killing people at an alarming rate. And we all know that once we put the drug in our body, it activates the allergy and we can't stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
For somebody out there that's still struggling, that just watching this show right now and they're saying, man, I really want to go out there and I really want to try to turn my life around. What is some advice that you would give them right now today?
Dude, buckle in, man. This is going to be the greatest journey of your life.
I love that.
You know? Yeah. And if you're struggling, hold on to your seat, man. Our literature says that you never have to use even if you want to. Even if you want to.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And that holds true for the addict who's still just getting clean for the first time right now, who hasn't yet got clean.
Yeah.
You don't have to use even if you want to. But, of course, that's through the program.
Yeah.
Right? When we use the program, we don't have to use.
Yeah.
You know? And I didn't know that when I came in.
Yeah.
I did not know that I didn't have to use. In regards to Suboxone, it's a form of harm reduction, right? And a lot of people out there are struggling, you know, and they're not ready to find these rooms right now, you know? And anything we can do to keep these people alive long enough, especially with fentanyl out there, to get to a point where they're willing to kind of see the message that we got going on, man, and find true freedom from active addiction.
I love that.
We need to use those tools, and we can't discriminate and push people away that are doing that kind of stuff.
All right, Bryce, hey, hold that amazing thought. One of our producers, he's a normie, and he likes to ask a normie question every episode, so the normie question of the hour.
Hey, guys, so I got a quick question. So obviously you think, Bryce, you think that weed is a gateway drug. Where do you draw the line? Like, because there's a lot of addicts that will pick up, like, caffeine, for example, or cigarettes, or, you know. What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't think pot's a gateway drug unless you're an addict. You know, I know plenty of people who smoke weed who are just fine, man. But if you got the same disease that I got, let me tell you, man, something like that, it's not going to do it. And, man, as far as the caffeine one, you know, I've never sat around all day doing nothing on account of caffeine. I've never thought I was dying on account of caffeine, and I've heard of some people doing that. But, you know, so I think the most important thing when we're trying to draw a line is being honest with yourself. Is self-honesty, man. You know when you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. You know, you know, our values might get askew over the course of addiction, but if you're being honest with yourself, you know when something ain't right.
Yeah, I love that. You do good, you feel good. You do bad, you feel bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's totally, sometimes our addiction makes the wrong feel right. You know what I'm saying? And we end up getting ourselves in a lot of trouble.
Whoa. Oh! Gotcha, good morning. Johnny in the Sky up here, leftover cannon from the gender reveal party down in South Bay at my niece's quinceañera. Low on fuel, gotta go. See you in Alano.
And I just want to give you a gift, man. We got you a gift for coming out here and giving your time. And we know you like fishing, so we wanted to get you a fishing pole, and we wanted to get you a huge fish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bryce. That episode was absolute fire, and I see a lot of Marlin in your near future. Well, that wraps it up, guys, for season 1. What an amazing, amazing, amazing accomplishment for us. And let's continue to leave comments. Leave your clean date, and we love to interact with our audience. We love that. But let's remember, we got to like, subscribe. We got to smash that bell, baby. You can go on to 90and90podcast.com, and you can click on every single episode, and you can enjoy all our wonderful content. We have to continue to help spread the good news. We want to hear redemption stories. If you have someone that you know that has an amazing redemption story, write me in Messenger, write me on my Facebook, write me on one of my platforms. We want to continue to bring in amazing guests that have amazing redemption stories. We want the channel to continue to keep moving and grooving, baby. Keep moving and grooving with the algorithm, man. We want to continue to keep sharing the good news, spreading hope, because I'm not the dope dealer. I'm the hope dealer, and I hope you guys have loved everything that we've done through season 1. Season 2, we will continue to work on, and we will bring that to you. It is always a good day to get sober. Let's go, baby! And remember, we ain't stopping till we got Robert Downey Jr. right here in the studio.
Stay sober. Stay sober. Stay sober, my friends.